This is the Fujifilm GFX100RF, a medium format version of the hugely popular Fujifilm X100 series of cameras. As you can see, they have similar styling, similar heritage. On the inside, of course, it's pure GFX. This has a 102 megapixel medium format sensor measuring 44 by 33 millimeters. So you've got really high medium format quality, but the camera itself is still really quite small and neat. And obviously it's bigger than the X100, but not massively so. The camera comes with a fixed 35mm f4 lens, which is equivalent to 28mm. And although it's a fixed focal length lens, there is a digital zoom via this little lever at the front there, which enables you to zoom to the equivalent of 36mm, 50mm, or 63mm, with a corresponding drop in resolution to 62 megapixel, 31 megapixel, or 20 megapixel. And there is no IBIS in this camera. That's one thing of note, which of course the X100 does have. The camera itself, the body is incredibly well made, beautifully made. It's the top plate is a single piece of aluminium. It's dust and splash proof. If you want full weatherproofing, there's a 49mm thread attachment which goes over the lens to protect the lens, because the lens isn't weatherproofed, but then that gives you full weatherproofing. On the top plate, you can see that it has the similar layout to the X100 series, with a shutter speed dial on the top, exposure compensation in the corner, and of course apertures on the lens. There are some new features on this camera as well, which you don't have on the X100. One of these is here on the top, this vertical dial, which enables you to select different aspect ratios. So you've got 4:3 ratio, 16:9 ratio, 5:4 ratio, 3:2 ratio, 1:1 square pictures. There's 9 different settings on here that you can select from. And you get this, the viewfinder crops to the aspect ratio that you've selected, which makes it really user-friendly. The back will look familiar to anyone that uses Fujifilm cameras. You've got your focus mode selection, you've got a joystick on the back there, and you've got your input dial on the back. Like the X100 series, it has a tilting LCD screen. It doesn't fully articulate, but it does tilt upwards and downwards for high-level and low-level shooting. This is a 3.5-inch touchscreen, 2.1 million dot resolution. In the corner here, you've got an electronic viewfinder, which is 5.76 million dot. It's not a hybrid viewfinder like the X100, but it is a very high-resolution electronic one. And as I said before, the framing inside the viewfinder adjusts according to the aspect ratio selected using this dial. Although primarily aimed at stills photographers, the GFX100RF can also shoot video 4K at 30 frames per second or Full HD at 60 frames per second. And to that end, you've got a 3.5mm mic input, you've got a headphone socket, and of course you've got the HDMI and USB ports on the side as well. There are also twin card slots on this side, twin SD card slots, so you can choose how you want to configure that, but that's useful to have also. One interesting thing about this camera is that it has an in-lens leaf shutter, and it has a range of 0.004 of a second down to 16 minutes. If you lose the electronic shutter though, you've got a shutter speed up to 16,000th of a second. Now the ISO has a native range from 100 to 12,800, but that can be extended up to 102,400. Needless to say, this is a Fujifilm camera, so it does have the acclaimed film simulation modes that everyone loves about Fuji cameras. I'm incredibly impressed with this camera. As someone that likes the Fujifilm X100 series, really like the X100 series, and let's face it, most people do, here's a camera which has the same styling and same basic philosophy as the X100 series, but in the medium format image quality, 102 megapixels. So what's not to like about that? Despite its size and weight, it's not really that heavy for medium format. It's significantly smaller and lighter than the GFX interchangeable lens cameras. So this camera can still be considered like a walkabout camera that you can have around your neck, and you're not going to feel like too much of a burden carrying it around. This would probably fit into a decent jacket pocket as well. It's not that big. There are a few minuses. There's no IBIS, I guess, which is a very slight downer. The fixed lens, 28mm, is quite wide. So for a lot of people, you might find that's too wide. It's great for street photography and that sort of thing, but maybe for portraits, it's a bit too wide. But then if you're happy to just use a digital zoom, and don't forget, you're still getting, even at 63mm equivalent, you're still getting 20 megapixel image files, then that's not an issue either. I think the interest in this camera is going to be huge when it's released, and I wouldn't surprise me if they sell out very quickly and find this on back order in no time at all. It is £4,699 in the UK. I'm not sure of the US pricing, but really for what you're getting, that is, you know, if you look at other cameras of that kind of price and other medium format cameras, that's actually pretty competitive. So I think this camera is going to be massive. Personally, I'd probably go with the silver one. I like the X100 series. It comes in a choice of black or silver. I do like the silver, but the black is also pretty cool. So that's my overview of the GFX100RF. We're going to do a full review of this camera as soon as we get a review sample. But in the meantime, I hope you found this overview useful and informative. Do tell us what you think of this camera in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you don't already.